Hey guys, good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, November 12th. It is 6:24 right now. We got market opening up in about 6 minutes. So we get a few moments for people to make their way in, and we'll get started shortly with our analysis for today. So, all right, guys, I put the disclaimer up here already. I'm just not going to go through the normal spiel that we go through. I'm just going to make sure that we have a full analysis of everything before we kick off the session. So, with that being said, here is the list of trades for today. Obviously, the breakout on open right there, it's going to be against momentum as usual. Weighted average is a little bit lower than what it has been past couple of days. 632 is going to be the next entry. These have been pretty much clockwork, right? These have always came up. Pretty much all these entries here have came up for the past couple weeks. So 629, 632, 641, 643, and 702. Those are pretty much all the entries. There's not too many entries here for today, as you guys can see. Other than that, that's all that we have listed as target entries. If you guys were in the chat yesterday and the premium, actually, we discussed about the slippage that's been happening. To try to combat that, like meanwhile, while we're still a Ninja Trader, I think when getting into the orders, I'm going to be getting in with limit orders instead of market orders, at least for the time being. Um, because the thing with the slippage getting out of the market, like with the exit at the stop loss areas, that can't really be avoided as much, but getting in could hopefully be minimized because we've noticed that a lot of people have been getting slippage both ways, getting into the market because we're entering at market, and then also exiting because if the stop or the target gets hit, it's usually a stop order, not the limit order that's getting filled. So. All right, guys, I think that's going to be our goal for today. We're going to try to minimize slippage as much as possible. As you guys know, Ninja Trader's just been having a ton of slippage over the past couple days or past couple weeks, actually, which has been pretty bad overall. So we'll try to improve on that here. But yeah, guys, these are going to be my entries for the day. So obviously, market open right here, 629. It has a weighted probability of 65.69 overall, of 64.71. Buys are at 62 and sells are at 66. So ideally, you'd want to look for a sell here, but realistically, both directions could possibly work. Um, and yeah, we'll see what happens here when market opens up shortly. Looking at the calendar for today, today's technically Fed day because it is Wednesday, so there's a lot of Fed speakers speaking today. Other than that, there's not really much news happening today other than the Fed speakers. Tomorrow we're supposed to have CPI. I don't know if the government shutdown is going to completely end by then. If it is, then we'll have CPI. If not, then this will probably be skipped, if not delayed, if not canceled. Hey Justin, morning. Morning Sam, morning Michael, morning CJ, morning Maria, morning Mendez, morning everybody. All right, looks like majority of you guys are here so far, so let's take a look at the charts. So again, looking at the charts over here, we'll see what happens in market opens up shortly. Looking over here at the overall trend. So the 1 minute is currently bullish. You can see prices above the pivots. Trend meter is green. Pivots are angling up. Same with the 5 minute over here, also bullish. 15-minute bullish. 30-minute bullish. 1 hour bullish and 4 hour bullish. So with that being the case, I mean, ideally you might be looking for a possible buy here with regard to trend. Now looking over here at market structure, you can see that everything's pretty much bullish as well, right? 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 30-minute, 1 hour, 4 hours. So with that being the case here, if you guys are looking to take trades based on price action, you're probably gonna be aiming for possible buys here. But we'll kind of see where this ends up going. I mean, of course, we're looking for a couple wins for this week. Of course, we've only taken one trade this week, so we've taken one trade yesterday. Obviously, there's a lot of slippage across accounts, so it might have been more than a 1 hour for the loss. So we need to have at least like 1 or 2 wins this week to bring us back into profit. Hopefully, one will bring us back into profit pretty quickly. But other than that, we just have to roll with it, of course. November is typically, a slower month. As you guys know, the market does move in seasons. So this is why this month is kind of it's more iffy compared to last month. October is really good for us, but November, December is usually a little bit slower. So you might see a little bit less entries. But hopefully with those less entries, we can still make it out of the month pretty profitable. We're still really early in the month. It's November 12th, so we have some time. So, all right, guys, if you guys are looking to take this trade right here on open, it's going to be for a sell. Candle's closing in about 30 seconds. So if you guys want to take it, I mean, feel free to take it at your own risk. I'm not taking this trade here, of course, as you guys know. I don't take the breakout on open, but if you guys do want to take it, it is going to be a sell entry right here. So candle's closing in about 20 seconds. Hey, Karen, morning, Lila, morning, Miss Siege, morning, Ryan, morning, everybody. All right, guys, market is opening in about 10 seconds. If you guys want to take the breakout on open, it is going to be a sell. Big spike right there. Let me check CNBC real quick. So I want to see if there's any updates with the government shutdown. So here's 5 things to know before market opens up. Trades, AI trade stalls, ghost job listings, shut floats, tariff rebate checks, and a couple other things here. Yeah, I was looking to see if there was any updates regarding the government shutdown, but there hasn't really been any updates here. Dang, look at this opening candle. Huge spike right there, guys. See, again, this is, we try to we try to remind you guys, like, this is why don't take the opening trade. I mean, if you guys want to take it, of course, it's fine. But if you take the opening trade like this, there's a lot of room for even more slippage here than you normally would during regular market entries, right? So, again, that's the reason why I personally don't like taking the opening trade because you never know what's going to happen. It really is a toss up. You can argue otherwise based off of probabilities, but because there's different types of news events that come out pre-market, it always affects the market one way or another. So, I mean, there's just no way to really tell exactly which direction price is going to go on open. That's why I never take it. So anyways, if you guys want to take the entry right here at 632, this is going to be a buy entry. It's going to line up with what we're looking for here. I think this is going to be an actual buy entry as long as we don't get a sell signal on this candle. The only problem here, and I always mention this, the only problem with taking a buy entry right here after open is that this is overextended, right? This is pushed up 110 points. So if it's pushed up 110 points, then in a situation like that, it might be due for retracement, of course, right? And that's why I wouldn't really want to chase this. You should never chase the move. But if you guys want to take it, the trade is running right there. That's the trade at 632. It's currently running in profit. I don't know why it's not showing up, or it's going to come up after this candle. So this is a 632 candle right now. So this is going to be the entry candle if you're looking to get into the 632. I need to fix a couple of accounts here that got disconnected. It's good. All right, guys. So if you're looking to take that trade right there, this is the 632 entry. Right there. It's currently running in profit. It's on its way up to target right there as we speak. So this is see how price didn't really pull back down to like the entry area. This is where it's going to be a little bit of a problem with taking these limit orders because sometimes price doesn't come back to fill it, which I mean is completely fine. But we'll try to. I mean, we're going to see how it plays out once we actually take an actual entry here. So there goes a 632 entry currently running in profit. Um, you can see price barely. And there you go, full TP right there. If you guys took that 632 entry, full TP right there. That's the first actual entry that I would have, probably looked into aside from the opening trade. The next one over here is going to be at 641. So I'll be looking to possibly get into these here. I'm just hoping that we have at least some sort of retracement to some extent because this is like it's pushed up a little too far. Looks like CJ caught that trade right there at 632. So 641 is going to be the next entry right here. Has a 69.33 weighted probability, 52% overall, 85% buy, 30% sell. It's one out of the three recent buys over there. So we'll see what happens here next. Justin also caught that win. Nice work. So Justice and CJ caught that win right there at 632. I really like that 632 entry. It's just a lot of times the movement here is just a little too strong. I didn't realize that this was going to be the actual 632 candle. I thought it was this one. So whenever I see a big candle like this, I usually don't like to jump into it because it has to retrace a little bit. But this one over here actually would have been okay. Only thing with this is that if you entered with a limit order, you probably wouldn't have been able to get the fill unless you got in like right away. So the way that I'm going to enter these limit orders is, for example, if I'm looking for a buy, I'm going to put my limit order just hanging out down here, and then I'm going to drag it up to where it needs to get filled and just drop it to get filled from there. So hopefully the orders can get filled. I mean, I don't know for sure if it'll be able to get filled, but we're going to try to get into those entries there, of course. So the next entry is going to be at 41 right here. I was hoping to see a little bit of some retracement so that we can see price kind of pull back and then shoot right back up further. But it's not really looking like that's going to happen here. If I do get some retracement, I'll try to mark up some structure here. I'll try to follow it and we'll see where this ends up kind of pushing to. There isn't really too much structure here. Price is pushed up super high. So obviously there's not going to be much structure here to draw up. There's going to be an imbalance to like follow. So there's an imbalance right here. This being the case, I mean, price might break and retest off that imbalance right there. That's what's happening right now as we speak, right? Price broke structure, retested, pushing up higher as we speak. So if that's the case, we're just gonna keep trailing it up with the market structure here. Yeah, no confirmation yet. This thing's pushing up pretty strong. All right, so we have the trade coming up right here at 641, guys. Like I said, this thing is really, really overextended at this point. I was hoping we get some retracement at this point, but this thing's up almost, it's 250 points, almost 300 points. So I'd be really, really wary about getting into any buys just yet, right? It's due for retracement. All right, I guess we'll see. Guess we'll see what happens here. Yeah, Sam said it's around all-time high. That's another thing too. So it makes it tricky, right? Things up 250 points, no retracement, break and retest off the imbalance right there. I think we're at the all-time high, right? Yeah, it looks like it. We're at 48. Yeah, all-time high. So you want to be careful with this, guys. I know we try to, not pay too much attention to the all-time high, but I mean this is it's for one, it's overextended. For two, it's all-time high. If we weren't overextended and we're at the all-time high, this would be a little bit better. But because we're overextended and we're at the all-time high, I think this makes it even more tricky. I don't really care about trading at the all-time high. It's just the fact that we've pushed up so far with no retracement. this is going to be an area of manipulation, of course, the all-time high price point. Yeah, no retracement here at all, guys. All right, so this is kind of what we got so far. Price is starting to retrace around this area a little bit. I mean, nothing crazy, but we are getting a little bit of a retracement right here. Yeah, I'd be careful, guys. I'm gonna hold off on this right here. I was really tempted to get into the 641 entry because we're really limited on entries today. Um, Okay, so we're breaking structure again, and we're pushing further all-time highs. The problem, so here's the thing, guys. If you're going to look to take the trade here, let me show you real quick what it's going to look like. This is why I'm worried about taking trades at the all-time high. Because look, if we get into an entry here and it retraces back just a little bit, it's going to stop you out, right? Like I said before, our stop losses are really tight. A couple of the things that I look to maybe improve on with regard to slippage is we can also there's basically two different risk to reward ratios that have high probability. It's going to be 40-20 and 150 or 50-100. So if anything, I mean, the thing is the volatility is a little too low right now. So the 50-100 is probably not going to work out very well, pushing for another 100 points. Um, but that's going to be something I'm going to be adding to our list here. That's why I have my risk to reward listed here. I try to list 50 to 100 trades, but there just wasn't any there that were available. So for me personally, they just weren't there. So, all right, if you guys want to take this trade here at 641, I'm going to sit out on it because, like I mentioned, this thing's overextended. Like it's extremely overextended right here. And I'm worried that if we get caught in chop, right, because market could likely just chop right here. It doesn't have to necessarily reverse like to the downside. This can easily just chop right here. And if it chops within this area, this becomes a mess because our stop loss is so tight that if it pulls back even just a little bit, it'll stop us out. Right? It'll stop us out. So I'm going to hold off on this right here. I mean, the next entry that I'm looking to maybe get into would probably be the 702. I think these two entries are going to be a little too close, 741 and 743. They're too close to this all-time high area. I'd like to see price kind of pull back a little bit, maybe even chop up for a bit and then continue up higher. But right now, I think this is going to be an area where there's going to be a lot of risk. So if you guys want to take this trade, the candle's closing and it just closed right there. This is currently the 741 entry at the all-time high. So here goes a 741 entry currently running in profit. It's looking pretty decent so far. I'm gonna step away for 1 second, guys. I'm gonna grab some water and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. So, good thing we skipped out on this entry right here at 641. Like I said, tricky entry because of us being at the all-time high and price being overextended, right? So, I didn't take that trade there, of course. I kind of identified. We talked about this yesterday, guys. Like, we have the probabilities over here, and this gives us an initial edge, but you also have to use your own discretion to really see the obviousness here, right? Like the obviousness here is that price was overextended as due for retracement. And that's why for me personally, I wouldn't have taken this trade here. This just comes from experience from trading, YM every day for the past 8 years, pretty much at the same time. I've been trading this specific asset from 6:30 to 8 every single day for 8 years. So when you see this happen, you can kind of not predict, but you can assume that this is likely to happen, right? And that's why I decided not to take this trade. And this is why I recommended not to take the trade because this thing was due for retracement. It was up almost 300 points, and price is now retracing and chopping up a little bit. Eventually, I'm expecting to push through, and that's kind of what I'm waiting for over here at the 702 entry. So we'll see. I think the 703 also didn't play through, or maybe it's still running right now. So this is the 743 entry. This one also didn't play through. Yeah. All right. So hopefully nobody got into that position there. It's just like I mentioned, it's not a good time to take these entries. I'll be looking for this. The only other entry that I have for today is going to be the 702. So I'm hoping that this one over here comes out okay, because if not, then I don't know if I'm going to be able to get anything today. But let me just mark up the structure over here for the chop. I mean, it's a really tight chop here. If you guys look at this, it's not really wide at all. Honestly, it's a very tight chop right here. This price goes around. Masij said 50 to 100 has a 42% win rate at ATR when ATR is over 30. Okay, now it's good to know. Perfect. So thanks for adding that filter to it, Masij. So whenever the ATR is high and the volatility is high, then 100 to 50 to 100 TP stop loss works a lot better. Right now, the volatility is not that high. It's like it's high, but it's not super, super high to the point where the bigger moves will really play out. The problem with that, so here's the thing with using wide TP stop loss and low volatility is that when price goes in and chop like this, see this thing could chop up for like a while. Let's see, this chop right now is about a 30-point chop, 32 point. This thing could just keep moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it's ready to break out. Um, which I mean can happen at any moment, really. Can really happen at any moment, but we'll see when that may be. So right here, price looks like it's finally breaking above and out of the chop. We'll see if it continues to climb up from here, or if it just expands the chop out a little further. I think if anything, it might just expand the chop out a little further because it's too tight right now. It's a 30-point chop. Where it's currently sitting. My entry is going to be right here at 702. This is going to be with momentum for a buy. So looking over here at 702, it has a 75.21 weighted average for probability. It has a 64% probability of overall, 85% probability for buys, 50% probability for sells. This is the trade we took yesterday. Unfortunately, it lost yesterday. So it kind of dropped down the probabilities a little bit, but it's still looking like a pretty good setup. If we do have that opportunity there. We got price breaking out of the chop now as we speak. So I don't really care about the technical analysis here. This is just showing me if we're in chop or if we're not in chop. I think that's the main thing that I'm looking for when I drop the structure. You can look over here on this chart. There's not really too much going on. We do have an imbalance right here, another imbalance, if that's something that you guys like to look at. So we have another break and retest off imbalance right here as I got into this chopped area. So we got two areas of imbalance. This one right here, this lower one, and then this one up here, this higher one. So now that we got price over here, you can see it's breaking, retesting this upper range. There's two things to focus on here. Price is either going to break above and continue climbing up higher, or it's going to fake out and pull back into the chop, right? There's a couple of things there to pay attention to. Looks like price is trying to push up higher. Again, we're at new all-time highs right here. So this is a new leg, right? Initially, we talked about price being overextended from right here. That was about a 200, 295, 290 point push. We had price kind of consolidate around this area. Now this is a new leg right here to identify overextension. It's up 85 points, not a big deal. But I'll be drawing structure here to just identify, if we do enter into another area of chop. So I'm mainly looking for entries over here at 702. It's the only other entry that I have listed here for target entries. We got a couple other ones here at 716. It's not a target entry though. It's at 63%. 41's at 62%. 43's at 62%. So we got a couple other entries below here after 702, but they're not very high. They're just what I would call and consider decent. All right, so we're getting price pushed up right here. It's coming right back down into this range. So just looking at this over here, we did have a break of structure, of course. So we did have a break of structure right here. This could possibly be a break and retest of this. It's basically a high-low break and retest entry for those of you who like to take that entry there. So yeah, we got a break of structure right here. Price is kind of sitting at that area. See if I wanted to draw a structure here, I could. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy if you compare so this is pre-market right here. See how price was kind of moving here pre-market, and then we get to open and look at this huge, huge push right here on open. And then it goes back into chop up here. So pre-market chop, market push, chop, back and more chop right here. 6:53 right now, so we got a couple minutes till 7 o'clock. Again, like I mentioned, my entry is going to be happening at 7:02. Um, I would like price to break past structure in order for me to get into that entry there specifically. So I'm looking for a buy. All right, so we're getting a break of structure right here. Price is still climbing up, like we said. Still climbing up. So whenever price breaks structure like this, the two things you want to look at is if price is going to either stay above it or if price is going to fake out, pull back into this lower range, right? We have the initial range, which is down here. So this is one scenario, fake out, pull back into the range. Second scenario is price break structure and continue climbing up higher. Um, Third scenario is consolidation, break to new levels, consolidation right here. The thing is, like, we're in uncharted territory, right? This is all-time high. We're currently at the all-time high right now. So there's nothing to really look back on. Everything here is pretty much out in the open. No breaking news for today so far. Yeah, not really too much there so far. It's 7:55 right now, or 6:55. We're getting closer to 7 o'clock. Let's see. Alad's asking Sean, there are so many imbalances to fill with these big candles from yesterday and today. Do you think at some point there will be a retracement to fill the gap? I'm talking like a move of almost 1,000 points. Not really. I don't think, if it's going to drop 1,000 points, I mean, there has to be some sort of catalyst dropping price down, right? So like say for example, the government shutdown bill. If that fails, then yeah, okay, maybe price might drop down. Or if there's new tariff news, that might shut down. There's a lot of good news that happened overnight or just since yesterday. So the government shutdown is looking to end. That's one big thing, right? That's why price here is super bullish because people are expecting market to go back to normal. The second thing is, I believe Trump mentioned that he's going to be giving out stimulus checks for the tariffs. That's like, I think 2,000 per person or something like that. That's another thing that's going to kind of pump market here. So unless any of those things fall out or if something else happens that causes market to kind of sharply drop, 1,000 point drop is that's pretty big a lot. Like you got to be realistic with the numbers, right? I mean, if you said a couple hundred points or maybe 500 points, then okay, I can see that maybe correct back down. But 1,000 points, that's pretty big. I mean, and I'm just giving you scale here, right? That's a really, really big drop to the downside. There has to be something to make it drop 1,000 points. It's not just going to drop 1,000 points just because there has to be some sort of catalyst. So I don't think 1,000 points is going to be realistic. Maybe 500, but or even 500. That you can see here, it's pretty far off. There has to be something to really drop price off for price to get liquidated like that. If anything, price will push up higher and then eventually drop down. But I don't think it's just going to drop down from where it's currently at right now, unless there's something that's causing it to drop. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, I could be right. I just don't really see price dropping that much for no apparent reason. Like not just to fill imbalances, I don't think that's going to be the case. There just has to be something else to make it drop in a sense. I do think there's some earnings this week, so maybe if the earnings are not as good as people expected, they might drop, or if price gets manipulated off earnings. I just don't know which earnings are coming out because I haven't followed them. So yeah, there's a couple different things. The other thing too is the CPI data, right? So yes, maybe tomorrow if the CPI data comes out, the inflation news. So tomorrow's is consumer price index, so basically consumer inflation. If this here comes out tomorrow, then yes, you could probably see a spike to the downside, maybe about 500 points or so. I don't know if this is going to come out because the government shutdown hasn't ended yet. But if this does come out, I mean, CPI is one of the bigger news events, right? There's NFP, CPI, PPI, and then Fed interest rate news. Those are the big main news events that'll cause big spikes in the market. But I don't think the government shutdown's ending yet, so probably not something for us to look at. Not quite. Let's see. A lot said not in one shot. Yeah, no, I'm talking about in a few hours. I don't expect price to move 1,000 points in a few hours. A lot, you can just measure it. So if you measure any type of open, so let's just go over here real quick. I'll leave this chart alone. Let's go to the markup chart over here. So let's just go to like the 4 hour chart, right? So the 4 hour chart here, I mean, you can just measure market. Like the highest volatility is going to be open, right? That's always like where it's going to be highest volatility. So like for example, right here, you can just measure this. See how I mentioned like 500 points? 500 points is realistic, but you said 1,000 points. This is a 4 hour candle. So 1,000 points is really unrealistic. That's like something has to happen to cause a spike. 1,000 point, or not even spike 1,000 points. These are 4 hour candles. So in a 4 hour period, see, it doesn't move more than 500 points. That's why I was talking in a longer scale, not just one big shot. Um, I mean, if you're talking about an entire day, possibly, maybe a whole day, but not like within 4 hours. Because you can just measure it and you can do your own, like, see, everything here. I didn't even measure it myself, but I just know from experience that like 500 points is like it's about the average. So, like, for example, over here, maybe in like 10 hours. So this is 1,000 point move a lot. being realistic, right? You just got to be realistic. I think you're just throwing out like a really big number, but I think 1,000 points, it's not going to go and fill the gap like you mentioned, right? Like this took almost like, I don't know, 12 hours, maybe a whole day for it to happen. But yeah, not in a few hours. Like even during the highest volatility times, you're never going to see it drop like 1,000 points. That's like a black swan event for it to drop that much. See, right here, this is like from 7 o'clock to like 11 o'clock. It's a 5 hour, a full 500 point push. So if you want to look at that a lot, you can always go back and look at it. But just looking at historical data, it doesn't move 1,000 points within a couple hours unless there's some sort of catalyst really pushing price that heavily, like NFP, CPI, PPI, interest rate news, stuff like that. But even so, it's going to move like 100 points or so, not necessarily 1,000. And the thing is, if you look at the price, guys, it doesn't really respect technicals, right? Price doesn't really respect technicals. So I wouldn't use those imbalances as like reasons to get into stuff. Everything here is based off, it's mainly news based for the most part. All right, we got this entry coming up right here at 7:02, guys. The 7:02 entry right here is coming up shortly, like we mentioned. Let me see if I can mark up structure here real quick. Okay, I mean, this is going to be tough, guys. Again, as much as I wanted to take this trade at 7:02, I think price is a bit overextended again. So let's measure this right here from this low point to here. So you guys know my thresholds are usually around the 150 mark, right? 250 or 150, 250, 350, etc. Um, if this sell signal here comes up, there's probably not even going to be an entry here at 7:02 because the entry that I'm looking for is for a buy. The 702 right here it has a weighted probability of 75.21, overall probability of 64.71, buy probability of 85.71, and a sell probability of 50%. So if you guys want to take the trade here, I think if the sell signal comes up, okay, so it might be a buy entry here. Might be a buy entry here, but I don't like how it's flickering with that sell signal, right? See how the sell signal was coming up on the prior candle and it's still coming up here? You're going to be going against momentum if you take this buy entry right here, guys. I know like ideally this is what I would have wanted to take, but if you do take an entry here, you're going to be going against momentum because momentum is coming down. We reached the top part right here and price is looking like it's trying to pull back into this lower range. So if you guys want to take this trade, take it at your own risk. I think I'm going to sit out on this one here. It just doesn't look like a good one right here as price continues to climb down lower. Obviously, I want to go with momentum as price climbs up higher. I want to get in at the retracement points. But right here, it looks like price is starting to turn around a little bit. And it might come down and retest this lower range. And the problem with getting into a position here when it's testing the lower range is that, I mean, you can get easily stopped out because your stop loss is so tight, right? We're at a 20-point stop right here. So I'm going to use this as a point of reset. Trade's running right now. I didn't get into it. I mean, it looks like if I would have tried to get into it anyways, it probably wouldn't have filled because I would have put a limit order there. I would have drag and dropped my limit order right there, and it looks like price is pushing up as we speak. So this is tricky. It's tricky when you're taking a trade that's with momentum, right? We talked about this. When you're taking a trade with momentum, you want to be riding momentum to the upside. So you want to be looking at trades like this. And when price kind of pulls back a little bit, that's where you want to get into your entry. The problem with this entry over here is that price isn't really going in a upwards direction like that. It's more so in a choppy direction right here within this range. Right. So if you take a trade like that, your stop loss is too tight. This can easily stop you out, right? So this type of market that's going back and forth like this is good when you're going against momentum. So for example, if you had this trade over here, which was against, that'd be okay because you could trade within that chop. But because this one's with momentum, you typically want to be taking trades like when it's moving like this. So if you guys took that trade right there, it looks like it's probably going to hit. I don't think this trade would have filled for me, even if I would have taken it, because I talked about earlier today, guys, to avoid slippage, I'm going to try to get in with limit orders. And it looks like price did not pull back at all. It immediately pushed up. And if I would have dragged and dropped my limit order right there, I don't think it'd be filled. It'd still be pending right now. So either way, just looking back at this entry, I don't think my entry would have filled to begin with. But it's looking good. So if you guys are in this position, it is running in profit. It's almost at its full TP. Let's see, it's pushed up right here. About 25, 30 points. Yeah, about 20. to 30 points right there in profit. It was off by like about 10 points. I think it's going to hit though. It's typically if it pulls up like this and it doesn't actually retrace back, ideally it usually, goes to full target. But like I said, see how price here is respecting this top area. This is why I didn't want to get into this position here because I was worried price was going to get stuck in this chop. And again, we talked about this earlier. This is all from experience. It's not like this is anything special. Like I saw that price was stuck within this chop and stuck within this range. And this is what I was worried about, right? Price getting stuck and then just going back and forth. The reason why I'm scared of getting, not really scared, but I'm hesitant of getting into positions like this is because our stop loss is so tight. It's a 20-point stop. And if we do get stuck in the chop, it's really easy to get burnt here, right? I think this will hit though. Like we've talked about this before. Whenever price doesn't pull into the drawdown and it stays above in profit, it typically will end up hitting. It might take a little bit longer than usual, but this here will typically like, chop up a little bit and eventually shoot up to the target. But like I mentioned, I don't like trading within this chop here. Not if we're trading with momentum. Masij said even with limits, exits still get some slippage for me. Not sure why. Yes, so that's still the case, Masij. When you're entering with limit orders, then your entry is usually going to be exact because you're requiring that you get in at that specific price. But when you exit, your target orders are considered stop orders. So if you want to prevent that from happening, then you'd have to set your orders as limit orders altogether. Like they all have to be limit orders. Because usually what happens is when you enter with, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of entry you get in with, but usually when you enter a position, your stop is going to be a stop order, and then your target's going to be a limit order. That's why usually your limit order is going to be exact, or if you hit your target, it's going to be exact, but you'll typically get slippage still on the sell side. Or the buy side, if you do get slippage, it's going to be in your favor, not against you. So those are the two different types of orders. So there's limit orders, which requires to fill at exact price, and then stop orders, which when touched, turn into market orders. So not exact price fill. Those are the main two ones. So guys, as you guys can see right here, this is very, very tricky, like I mentioned. This is why I avoided the trade at 702, and I'm glad I did, right? So I avoided a loss right there because I didn't want to get caught in the same mess that we got caught in yesterday, right? It's doing exactly what we saw yesterday. And like I said, this is where the edge comes from, guys. The edge doesn't come, I mean, the edge does come from the strategy. It gives you the initial probability, but you have to understand not really market structure, but you have to understand volatility and momentum in a sense. Because right here, I saw the volatility start dying out, right? Like when I saw price get to this point, this is the whole reason I drew the structure here. When I saw this happen right here, I was like, okay, if this is the case, price might just end up chopping up within this area. And that's exactly what happened, right? Price ended up chopping up. This stuff can't really be taught, guys. Honestly, like this type of analysis that I just did right here and what I typically do every day is this is all through experience, right? Because it's such a subjective way of looking at the market that that you can't really be taught this. I mean, people can show you stuff and they'll tell you, okay, this is support or this is resistance or whatever like that. But to be able to think on the fly to see, okay, this is an area where price is going to start chopping, that stuff, it can't really be taught. You just have to be, it takes chart time. Like it takes a lot of experience to just see this happen over and over again to see that, okay, this is probably going to happen again because it's happened so many times in the past. So yeah, there's no entry there for me. I didn't take anything. So luckily, or not luckily, but thankfully, I ended up not taking a loss there again. I think another loss here would have been kind of detrimental to my account, of course, because I need to get a win here to bounce back from yesterday's loss. Yeah, CJ said I stayed at a 702 entry today. I'm over the weird shit happening that's been happening at that time. Yeah, and I just got disconnected from everything again. You're probably gonna hear my Ninja Trader here disconnect. There you go. You guys hear my ninja trader in the background? There you go. Disconnect, disconnect, disconnect. For some reason, guys, the 702 entry, I get a lot of disconnects around this time. I don't know what's the case or why this happens, but it always happens to me for some reason here. And like CJ mentioned as well, like I don't know if it's an Ninja Trader thing, if it's my internet, I don't know what it may be, but for some reason I always get disconnects around 7 o'clock. So we'll keep looking for entries here, guys. The next entry is going to be at 7:16. If you guys are still looking to take trades, I'll continue following for you guys here. I'm not taking anything myself because all of the entries that I looked at for today have ended. So 629, 632, 641, 643, 702. These two over here didn't come up for the buy. They were obviously not the trades that we were looking for. And this one over here, I didn't take it because of the chop. Rev said Zoom closed and reopened. Did you lose internet? Did I lose internet or did you? It might have been me, Rev. It might have been me. Here, let me scroll up real quick. I'm gonna see if there's anything else that I'm missing here. Nice work, Ark. I just saw your profits right now. So Ark has been killing it this week and last week. You've just been on fire lately, Ark. Some more profits over here from you. So you got some more profits here from Ark. He's been on fire this week. These are the profits Ark locked in for the day. Great work right there, Ark. Right there from yesterday. Right there from the day before. Yeah, Ark has just been on fire lately. So nice work right there, Ark, locking in all those profits for this week. I mean, being able to lock in profits in this type of market is great. Because for me, I'd rather just kind of sit out of these markets than risk it. But you're locking in profits, so that's great. Um, Let me just extend this out a little further. So there's two things that are likely to happen over here. Price is probably going to pull back into this initial range, right? So we had this bigger range over here, and then now we're getting into this lower range down here. So, or this was like consolidation, price pushed up, ranged out for a little bit, and then pull back down here, of course. Let me scroll up real quick. Rashida said she took YM buys, NQ sells. It broke my ranges. Volume I told you about yesterday was good for that 732 entry or 632 entry. Okay. Let me check. So let's add volume on here. I know Rashida mentioned that yesterday. Yeah, one thing that Rashida mentioned to me yesterday was the volume. And here's the thing with the 632, the volume's always going to be high. So I mean, that's going to be, it's always going to be high at that point. But the thing that Rashida mentioned to me the other day was, the volume's low. It's probably best to sit out of the trade, right? Like the 702 entry right here. The volume was a lot lower than, all the other ones. I don't like using the volume bar, but yeah, Rashida did mention this yesterday that whenever the volume's like a lot lower compared to the average, it's usually a time not to take the entry. And it's played true here as well. So thanks Rashida for the heads up on that one. So again, the 702 entry came up right here. The volume bar was a lot lower compared to the average. So it might have been a good decision to sit out of that one if that was the case. Um, you can kind of tell. So I just added the moving average to there. So like basically if the volume bar is above it, it's like above average. If it's at it, then it's normal. If it's below it, it's lower than average. So you can see the volume here is starting to die down a bit. It's actually pretty low right here across the board. I'm not going to leave this on. Or I guess I could leave it on here. It doesn't really affect it too much. I guess it's a decent tool here to kind of see where price is moving and to have an idea of like where volume is currently at. All right, so we got price kind of just sitting right here at this lower range. We'll see if it breaks below and continues dropping. If it does continue to drop, probably drop back down to this lower range right here. I wish this range was a little bit like just a little bit farther off so I can see things better. But it's a tight range down there. Okay, guys, so back to this entry that we just talked about earlier. This is going to be against momentum at 716. You guys are looking to get into that. The volume here is really low. Just something to keep in mind. RX said, Sean, do you or the lady in the group that takes all trades in her direction have the numbers, meaning backtesting for taking all the trades except for breakout? I'm doing well with the breakout. I took the buy, learned a strategy, but it's been working, but I'm scared, like you said, it could be luck. We don't know what the market will do. Yeah, Masij right there has a number. So if you want to message Masij, Masij actually responded to you, or with specific numbers. CJ also has the numbers too. CJ's been taking every single entry that's been coming up. Yeah, Masisha, this is why I'm really trying to create this system that eliminates the bad entries without any analysis. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean the main factor with identifying it is if you can find some sort of or if I can help you identify when market is I think this is probably the tool you can use in Siege because it's hard for me to explain to you like when, like for example, the 702, it's hard for me to explain that this is a choppy market. A couple of things that you can look at would probably be the volume tool here. So like basically whenever the volume is below the moving average, this can dictate whether it's, a slow market or not. See, the problem is that it doesn't always work that way. So like here, we're going to use this as an example. This is 716 right here. This is a possible buy entry that's currently running. Let's just try to use this as an example here. So this becomes an issue because the thing is most of the time volume is going to be below average and the entry after could be above average, right? So for example, here the volume is below average, but all of a sudden we can get price to kind of just go sideways and eventually pop right back up, right? It looks like price is probably going to pop back up here just by looking at where price is sitting right now, because it looks like it's faking out right here below the range and it's going to pull right back into this upper range right here. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Arc said get a VPS on it really helps. Yeah, no, the thing is, so the VPS is good when, and there you go, full TP on that 716 entry. So this is why I don't like using volume too much, right? Because like Rashida, if you see this example right here, like I know we talked about your analysis with the volume being low. This right here, the volume was very low on the entry, right? But it still hits. So I don't think this is going to be something that's like going to be required because the volume here again was like very, very low, right? Compared to everything else. We had high volume here, very, very low volume here, but you can see this trade here still hit. So I don't think the volume is going to be like a requirement for me, but it does help though, right? If the volume's higher, then of course it's going to be beneficial because we can kind of follow it and see if this helps with our entry pushing the target. But there's going to be a lot of situations where the volume's not high, but it still hits target like that within the first couple candles. So yeah, we'll keep looking at the volume here, but I wouldn't really use this as, it's not going to be like a requirement that I use for the probabilities and stuff because I want to keep it as simple as possible. Barack said, a real genuine question. Can you really count on that volume bar just compared to NinjaTrader 8 and see how different they are? Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't really like using the volume bar. We've used the volume bar before in the past. I think it's good for just like an extra confluence, not really incorporated into the strategy, but just something to look at. If you're worried about getting caught in the chop, I mean, this could help with identifying choppy markets. Obviously, the market here is choppy, right? So this does help telling you, okay, maybe you should kind of chill out for a little bit before getting into any entries because the volume is like very low. You don't necessarily have to follow it, like we talked about. I try to keep it very simple. Like for example, my entries here, they're based mainly off the weighted average. Like whether they become a target entry or not, they're based off the weighted average. The main catalyst of whether I take the trade or not is really if market's choppy or not, right? So like I mentioned before, I said when market's choppy, like how it is right now, this is good for an against momentum, right? And that's why this one over here played out so nicely. When you're trading with momentum, you don't want price to be choppy. You want price to be opposite. You want it to be directional and you want it to be moving a lot more consistent. So that's why this intro here at 716 worked a little better because it was against and we're identifying this as price chopping up. Let's see, Rashida said I use that and compare it with BB swing. If it all matches, I take it. Okay, now it's good to know, Rashida. Take a look at that. Yeah, Masij said, yeah, don't worry. I know what indicators I'm going to use. I wrote a script in Pine to identify chop. Already got the first working variation. Win rate is at 46.2. Want to get it to 50 by the end of the week. Then I'll be confident. Yeah, no, definitely, Masij. There's a lot of different tools that you guys can use to identify the chop. You don't have to use the volume bar. Like what Rashida mentioned, she's using another indicator as well to identify, chop or low volatility. Um, it's just really up to preference, right? As long as you guys know how to use these tools and you have a specific reason for them, then you can use whichever one fits your criteria. For me, I just like to look at the chart. Like I honestly, like for me, I don't really like using extra tools. I like to just look at the chart and I can kind of tell if it's going to be choppy or not. Just from eyeballing the market. Like for example, all of these different ranges that I drew up here, this is all from just hand drawn or just from seeing the chart. This isn't from using any indicators or tools here. I knew it was going to be choppy because just looking at where it's moving, it was kind of obvious to me. It's not obvious to everybody though. So, in a lot of instances, you might have to use tools to kind of help you see what I'm seeing here. But yeah, we are still in this chop right now, guys. Next entry is at 741 right here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Like I said, we're in a dead period right now, so there's nothing for me to take. My Ninja Trader keeps disconnecting, so nothing new there. I'm just gonna have to log out of my Ninja Trader actually. There's no need for me to be on here because there's no other entries for me to take for today. There was a ton of disconnects again though, fortunately. All right, so let's see what else we got over here. So let's see. Let's go back to our main chart over here, or just our markup chart. Looks like we got a couple imbalances over here as price continues to kind of bounce around. We got an imbalance right here, which is currently being retested. It's more of a sell imbalance. All right, so we got a sell imbalance right here. We got a couple actually. We have one right here as well. I don't think I could put a label on this one. It's too small. Or I guess I can. All right, we got a couple imbalances right here as price continues to trickle down a little bit lower. So the fact that we have two imbalances right here, this could possibly be like a big range that's starting to establish. Like we have the consolidation in between, but it looks like this might be the big imbalance. Like for example, here price is currently chopping up within this middle area, but the imbalance as a whole, or this range in a whole, is going to be this big area right here. So we got a big range and we have a small range. Small range is right here down the middle. And then we got the big range, which is basically between this upper imbalance and this lower imbalance right here. I mean, price is chopping up. The ATR is starting to drop down. You can see the ATR down below is at 24. We were closer to like 30, 40 earlier. Now we're down at 24. This is what I talked about in the chat yesterday and what I've been talking about, guys. There's no consistency in the market, right? We have this big, big bullish push right here that happened. This was like a 250 point push to the upside or a 400 point push in total. And then it just flattens out, once we hit 7 o'clock. This is why I'm a little more cautious taking trades at 7 o'clock. It was actually the opposite before. Before 7 o'clock used to be more consistent for October, but for the month of November, it kind of pushes up maybe the first couple of minutes of market open and then it flattens out, which there's nothing wrong with. It's just there's no target entries around this point for me. Next one's going to be over here at 741. Yeah, see, PC said the volume indicator is good when looking for opposite candle with higher volume that previous candle. It doesn't happen very often, but indicates strength that can highlight areas of interest. Also shows institutional activity if you know what to look for, incubation levels. It's kind of like an engulfing candle for momentum traders, just a different way to look at it. Yeah, and I agree with PC as well, 100%. That's why for me, I was looking at this here. To see the or I guess, in a sense, like we mentioned, the reversal patterns that would come up. So for example, here we have the high volume and then the engulfing right here off this small volume. And that could have been identifying, possible reversal to the downside. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen, but that could be the case there. I mean, it looks like this here, still your stop would have to be pretty far out, 40 points to survive it, or at the previous swing, I guess. It's just too big of a move. It's too big of a move, plus the volume is pretty low. So yeah, and then PC also mentioned also a good confirmation for OB traders. I agree. I agree with everything you said, PC. 100%. For me personally, I don't really like using it because like you said, I think the volume tool down here is more useful for reversal type patterns versus with momentum. And most of the time I'm trying to go with momentum. Yeah, Sam said PC. I doubt that you use this volume indicator. Yeah, I don't use it myself. I just wanted to see that. I mean, this is probably the easiest way to see volume um, on a tool. But for me personally, I'd like to just see the volume myself. Just the way that I identify volume is like when the candle sizes start to get a little bit smaller, right? It's the same way of looking at the tool down here. Like if you look at the candles. I mean, except for this one over here, of course. But when you see the candles here, you can kind of see how volume kind of dies down a little bit. And I try to keep it very simple. I try to keep it very simple. I mean, I don't use it, but there's different ways of using it, right? There's no one way of using it. So I'm not going to disagree with anybody's analysis of how it's used for the most part. Yeah, that's why you never see this on my chart. Whenever you open a new chart, you always see the volume indicator down here, and I always take it off. Because it's to me it's just noise in a sense. All right, I'm gonna take it off because it's actually bothering me now. It's bothering me that it's taking up so much space down here. All right. So again, like I said, the volume here is low. Even without the volume indicator, I can tell here that the volume is low. And it's still sitting around this middle point as we speak. Yeah, for me personally, I prefer to have more of a clean chart here, especially on this specific one where the entries are being marked up. Um, I'll use my other chart over here for markups, of course. It's kind of where I have like the my tools and stuff with regard to the trend, the pivots, the momentum, etc. Uh, but for the actual entry chart, I prefer to keep it pretty clean for the most part. Aside from, the the uh the uh the market structure with regard to chop and whatnot. All right, so I shut down my laptop, guys. There's no entries for me to take here. Um, we'll see if there's anything here that we're looking at, but there's nothing here that I specifically am looking to follow. Yeah, PC said he doesn't use a tool. Yeah, I mean I don't use it either. I've seen people use the volume tool though. I think if you guys are going to trade volume, you're probably better off using volume profile versus actual volume. I think volume profile will probably help a lot more. Like this is a market profile. But if you add volume profile to it, I think that's probably gonna help a lot more. Damn, look at this 30-minute candle though, huge. So it looks like price is trying to retrace back because this 30-minute candle over here, it's a 400 point candle basically. So typically when you get a huge candle like this, price will tend to retrace back to like at least the midway mark. So these are a couple of scenarios that I'm looking at, possibly retrace to the midway mark and reverse back up, or price break and retest, fill the entire candle, or same thing and full on reversal back into the range here, right? I mean, who knows? I'm not going to be on the chart for long enough to see this actually play through, but yeah, this candle here is huge. So whenever you see a huge candle like that, see if we have an example here. So here's an example right here. See how we have a huge candle right here, this red candle? Typically, it'll retrace up to the halfway mark. So like I said earlier, for this current candle, this is the halfway mark. Tends to happen is either a break and retest continuation, break and retest reversal, or a couple different other scenarios where price, but usually those are the two different things. So again, right here, see this big, huge candle right here, pushes up, retraces to the middle point right here, kind of consolidates, but then reverses. And you would just measure on the middle point, which is like right here. Okay, so with that being the case right here, I mean, price may pull back a little bit. So going back to what you talked about earlier, Elad, see if price pulls back right here, it's probably going to pull back to maybe 500 points, 1,000 points, I think is going to be that's pretty far move down here. So I don't think that's going to have maybe 500 points, but not 1,000. At least not today, unless news comes out. All right, so you guys can see the levels that I drew here earlier. I mean, price is still pulling back into this middle range. It's literally coming back to this middle range where we had price earlier. So price basically pushed up, consolidated, pushed up a little more, faked out. Now it's coming back into this range here. Let's see. Elad said, I agree. I meant over a few days. Okay. Well, okay, that makes more sense because earlier you said like over a few hours, right? When you first mentioned it. When you said a few hours, I was like, I don't think that's the case. It Yeah, because if you look up to your earlier message, you said over a few hours. So I was like, I don't think that makes sense. 1,000 points in a few hours, that doesn't ever happen. But now that you mentioned, over a few days, then okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you're fine, a lot. I get what you were saying though. You were basically saying, do I think price will eventually come back to fill the imbalances, right? I think that's what you meant to say. Do you think price will ever come back to fill the imbalances that were created over, the previous days? And yes, I do think the imbalances will get filled. That's usually how the market works, right? That's how market is efficient. That's what keeps it efficient is that, price pushes from levels and it comes back to those levels at some point in the future. Yeah, it's all good, a lot. I know sometimes it's hard to like uh, come up with the proper words to demonstrate what you're trying to explain or what you're trying to see and stuff like that. But I knew what you were saying. I just wanted to correct it a little bit because we want to keep it realistic, right? With the movements. Okay. Let me scroll down a little bit. Art is asking, hey, how do I get the numbers? I will follow whichever one can average. Yeah, Ark. So I post all the trades in the Discord. So if you want to look over here, I mean, like I mentioned, and nice work over here, Ark, unlocking these profits over here. So Ark over here locked in another trade. It looks like you took the 716 trade. Yeah, so Ark locked in a few more profits right here. Great work, Ark. You've been killing it lately. So nice work right there. And I think these are all your funded accounts too. So you're doing pretty well. So great work right there, Ark. If you want to see the entries, they're going to be right here. Every night I post the entries right here on the algo channel. And you should have access to this, all right? So if you go to the premium channel over here, go to the algo thread, it's going to be right here listed. So basically the green ones are going to be the ones that have higher probability. They have above a 65% weighted probability. So those are usually going to be more likely to hit than the others. But it doesn't mean the others aren't necessarily not going to hit. If you just want to pick, because I know you talked about this yesterday, if you just want to pick five of them, I mean, you can just pick five at random, Ark, if that's what you want to do. It's up to you, right? It's up to you. You can pick three at random. You can pick five at random. All these trades here have good enough probability to probably hit. They all have edge. It's just the ones with the green have higher edge. So I don't know if you want to take a mix up, maybe take two green ones or three green ones and then two regular ones. Whatever you feel comfortable with, or whatever I know you're busy in the morning, so whatever fits your schedule better, right? If you're too busy around the 6 o'clock times, and take the 7 o'clock times. If you're too busy around the 7 o'clock times, take the 6 o'clock times. They all have decent probability. Like they wouldn't be on this list here unless I found them to have at least some sort of edge. Let's see, Rashida said my BB swing is red. If it stays this way, the sell at 741 might be good. Okay, no, it's good to know. So we got the entry coming up right here at 741. This is going to be with momentum. So ideally, you just don't want to have a buy signal here come up. The ATR is currently at 20 right now. This has a weighted average of 62.19, overall average of 52.94, buys at 40%, sells at 71.43%. So in order for you to get this entry right here at 741, there can't be a buy signal come up here. I know it's pending, but you want to make sure it doesn't actually close. Man, I'm still waiting for the regulators to approve my disclosure document. So I know a lot of you guys are are asking about when we're going to transition to StoneX. I mean, unfortunately, because I still don't have I don't have a date. I'm hoping we'll be able to get to StoneX by the end of the month for sure. But I'm just waiting for the regulators to give me you know, I'm waiting for them to give me the okay to to start onboarding because I'm ready to go. Honestly, I'm ready to go. It's just I need to have the confirmation from them before I can start onboarding people. Because the thing is, my disclosure document initially said that we were using NinjaTrader, but we're not going to be using NinjaTrader anymore. So in order for me to swap over to StoneX, I have to get the approval from the regulators. I'm just hoping we get the approval by next week because the week after that is Thanksgiving, and it's just going to take longer. So. Man, I don't know what is up with this, but the internet connection issue right here at 7:41 is just, or around 7 o'clock is just really, really unusual. I think what I might have to do is I'm gonna have to contact Google Fiber because I can't keep trading like this with the connection issues. Or I might just have to reset my router. I'm gonna do that after this actually. So after this live session, I'm just gonna do a full-on reset of my router. It shouldn't be a problem, but I've just been having these disconnects a lot more lately. All right, so this entry right here at 741 is going to be with momentum, guys. It's going to be a sell entry. If you guys want to take this here, it's going to close in a few. Like I said, the volatility here is just not very consistent to the downside. So I mean, personally, I wouldn't really want to take an entry like this. Um, it looks like it probably wouldn't be a good decision to take this anyway. So there, I'm going to take that off real quick. See how this again is still within this chop? When price is chopping up like this, it's better to take a trade that's against momentum, right? Try to remind you guys about that. Uh, yeah, then also the buy signal came up at the last second over here. And then also Rashida said that her Bollinger Band swing turned bullish or turned green. This is not to say this trade's not going to hit. It's just, the probabilities, you want to trade with the probabilities on your side, not against you. And if the probabilities are on your side, then for me personally, I think it's better to just sit out of the trade than to, try to force something there. Man, just looking at the market structure for today, lots of choppiness, right? Again, we don't want to trade in a choppy market like this. You want to trade when market is moving directional. So for example, if price is coming down, that's completely fine. We want price to consistently come down like this. Or if price is going up, that's fine. We want price to consistently push up like this. What we don't want is we don't want price to just initially have this push and then go into chop and then push up and then go back into further chop and then go down and go back into further chop here. It's just not it. It's really just not it in a sense. But all right, guys, if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to hop into the chat. Like I mentioned, there's just nothing for me to take here. My last entry for my target entries was at 702. It didn't come up with the criteria that I needed, so obviously I didn't take it. But it was a good trade to, I mean, in a sense, skip because of the conditions that we see here currently. So yeah, it's 744 right now. If there's anything you guys want me to take a look at or confirm or explain, I am here for you guys. All right. So, again, I don't see anything happening right here, right now. I mean, just by looking at the charts, guys, I don't even have to say anything, right? Price is currently chopping within the levels that I mentioned. It's respecting the levels pretty good, but I mean, that doesn't matter. We don't care for price to respect the levels. We care for price to break out of these levels here. So I drew these levels right here from earlier this morning, pretty much on open, and you can see how price is respecting this area, right? I don't care too much about technicals. I just care about whether price is consolidating, chopping, or moving directional. Obviously, right here, it's not moving directional at all. There was another entry right here at 743, which was actually for a sell as well. It didn't come up for a sell, but we were looking for a sell. The trade here actually came up for a buy. So at 743, it had a weighted average of 62.19. It has a 52.94 probability overall, 40% for buys, and 71.43 for sells. It had a history of winning two out of the three recent entries. We were looking for a possible sell here because the probabilities are a lot higher for the sell, but obviously didn't come up for a sell here, right? This was for a buy. So that's pretty much all my entries for the day. So if you guys have anything that you guys want me to cover, feel free to hop into the chat. If there's any confusion or anything like that, this is your best time to really ask questions, guys. I don't host mentoring sessions anymore, so if there's any questions that you guys want me to clear up, explain, etc., I mean, feel free to hop into the chat. I think the main concern lately has been slippage with Ninja. And unfortunately, there's nothing that I can really help to fix that, right? It's just a Ninja thing. Um, there's been a couple of things that have been a problem with Ninja lately. Disconnects, slippage, order fills, etc. I think the main thing that I can probably do to I guess prevent as much slippage as possible is going to be the limit orders, right? I think the limit orders are going to be the first step to preventing as much slippage as we've been experiencing, at least for the entry. For the stops, there's no real way to stop the stops, guys. I know like Masij mentioned that earlier, like how can you minimize the slippage on your stop loss? And unfortunately, there isn't a way because if you put a limit order for your stops, it's not going to help because if it can't guarantee you that price, then it's going to shoot through your stop and you're not going to get pulled out of the position. The stop orders can't be set as limits. They have to be set as stops, which in a sense. So let me explain stop orders to you guys because I know this is why Masij was a little confused. Um, the stop orders, so and I'll kind of here, let's see if I could just use an example here. So limit orders requires exact price to fill, right? And usually limit orders are going to be set at target because you want to get out at a specific profit, right? Or a target price point. So that's going to be what the limit orders are. Stop orders are orders that turn into market orders when touched. So this is why it's important that stop orders are used for stops because this it doesn't guarantee you an exit, but it does guarantee that it's going to pull you out of the position. It doesn't give you an exact price, but it's going to pull you out of the position, whether it be, exactly at this price right here, or if it pulls you out before, it's going to pull you out or whatever price it can get you out at. If you use a limit order for your stop, then if it can't fill you at this exact price, 438, it's just not going to fill your order at all. And that's where you get screwed because if it doesn't close you out, then you can end up like way down here. So just something to keep in mind, guys. Um, when you're using order types, I mean, unfortunately, there's just no way to guarantee your stop getting filled at that exact price. There's no way. It's either you're going to get filled or you're going to get destroyed, basically. And in a sense, you're better to get filled at shitty price than to get out at or to not get out at all. So. Here is here's the entry at 743. The 743 entry is still currently running right now. It's on its way to target. I think it already hit target actually. It's almost there. So here's where it becomes a problem. See how price is having trouble getting past this zone right here? I mean, it's probably going to get into it and hit target, but this was the 743 entry. It's about to hit right there. There you go, full TP. So full TP right there, guys. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier with ARIC. You don't have to only look for the trades that are highlighted green, right? Like I mentioned, these entries that I put on this list, they're on the list for a reason. If you want to take every single entry, if you just want to take random entries, right? If you want to take a couple green ones, take a couple regular ones, you can do that. They all have at least a decent amount of edge here for it to hit, regardless if it's, for a buy or for a sell. Um, it just kind of depends on like what your criteria is for that specific trade. So like for example, if you wanted to just ignore a couple things here, like if you wanted to ignore the buys, let me see if I can maybe, because you can do this too. If you want to just ignore certain areas, like for example, so if you want to ignore basically all of this here, and you just want to go based off overall probability, I mean, you can even do that, right? Like if you don't care about the like if you don't care about like kind of fine tuning the probability, you can literally just go off the overall. So if you just go off the overall, you're gonna have an edge because everything that I put on this chart is gonna be above a 50%. So, like I mentioned here, if you just want to go after this here and you don't really care and you just want to kind of, take a shot in the dark, basically, that's essentially that's kind of what it is. You're taking a shot in the dark. I mean, you can because if you play a numbers game, majority of these trades are going to hit. Not all of them are going to hit, but majority of them are going to hit. So for example, if we just did the math here, let me do the math here for the trades that would have came up. So I think 629 lost, right? Negative 1R. 632 1 plus 2R. 641. I don't know, did 641 hit? I think that would have lost. 643. Um, or did I get that wrong? No, that was a buy. I'd have lost. 702. And of course you can still use like my same choppy market to just sit out of the market to avoid. 716. I'm just gonna show we're gonna add up like all the trades for today, just to kind of have an idea of like what hit and what didn't. 41, and then 7. Okay, so these are pretty much every single entry that came up for today. And let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so we got so basically 6R total minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You still would have been in profit for today. If you took every single trade on the list here, and this goes back to what you were asking about, Art. So if you take every single trade, you'd still be in profit for today because you would have been up 1R. You would have been up 6R for every like basically 620, 632, 716, 743. But then if you took the other ones, then you would have taken losses. So you would have had a negative 5R for losses, but you have a positive 1R or positive 6R for wins. Total net's going to be +1. So you'd end the day basically in profit. And if you did the math, like if you were to calculate pretty much every single entry that comes up, um, like yesterday was actually a big day. There's a lot of wins yesterday. So that would provide a lot of possibility for even more profit. Because you have like a really good day yesterday, and then you'd have an okay day today, and you'd still end up in profit for the most part. So let's see. CJ actually has a list over here. Nice. Yeah, so here's the stats from CJ. So for this week so far, Monday was 8 losses, 2 wins. It'd be negative 431. Tuesday, 2 losses, 4 wins, 581. And today, 1 loss, 3 wins. And this is what CJ's been taking pretty much for majority of the entries. So CJ's basically caught majority of the entries there, but not but did still had some discretion with the ones that CJ decided to take. Um, yeah, Rev said the stops is where the big slippage was because both instances it spiked. Yeah, exactly. Like when you do a market order, you'd have slippage on entry and then you'd have also slippage on exit. That's why it's like kind of double of a loss in a sense. CJ said, I take every trade on the algo list on my forward test account. The only trades I skipped today was the opening and 702. Okay, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's how you made so much more profit today. But it would have been like a little bit less if you did take those entries. Let's see. So PC has something similar, and PC also mentioned at the entry time, look for momentum confluences for entry instead of going with the indicator direction. Yeah, no, that could be something there too. The problem with that though is that so I'm trying to think about like how you would determine the direction of price because we have probabilities. Or okay, I guess I could see what you're saying. I guess you would just go with the probabilities for like individual direction, right? Let me see. So I'm gonna try to um hmm. I'm trying to think about like how that would work because I mean I'm assuming your probabilities are based off something else. Because the thing is, like you mentioned, for entry, look for momentum confluence instead of going with the indicator direction. The thing is like the whole catalyst for this specific algo is based off the momentum. So I mean I'm assuming yours is based off something else because like my whole algo is based off the momentum. So that's how I know which direction to be taking the trade. Unless I was to just cut out the against, like if I was to just cut out the against altogether. But then again, that would still be like it'd be the same exact thing that we're looking at here. Because I'm trying to like I know what you mean though. So basically PC is kind of mentioning that like there is there's a way to identify or not a way, but you can basically just take a trade in a specific direction of momentum. But I'm trying to figure out like how can I get the probabilities? I guess you could just base it off overall, right? I think that's just would be the case. So I think if I was to do that, I would just have to basically and I've been looking at that too. So I don't disagree with you, PC. I was trying to figure out like if I can just trade whatever the market's giving me versus having a bias before entering the market. So like basically if I was to delete this here, let me see. Yeah, basically like not delete, but just ignore all of this and just go off the raw probability. I think that's kind of what PC was mentioning. So like basically go off of like the overall right here. Overall, and then whatever momentum is pushing that direction, just take the trade in that direction, right? I think that's kind of what you were mentioning in a sense. So yeah, for example, here, like the overall probability, 629. It's just kind of tricky though, because if you're doing that, I mean, obviously it'd be a well, there would be no momentum direction for open. But then looking over here at 632, like this obviously would be a good entry in a sense. You would just chase the buy, I guess, in a sense like that. You basically would just be chasing momentum, right? In a sense, because that's what it says there, what you mentioned. Um, yeah, PC said I found that the high probability entries are best to use as market movement indication. So like yeah, again right here, like these, I mean, I guess the probabilities weren't that high. I guess you'd have to have something overall above 60 at least. 702 though, so let's check that 702 entry. Yeah, no, I mean, well, looks like the 702 would have lost. You just measure it right here. 702, the candle closed. Looks like price was kind of pushing to the downside. I mean, either way, the 702 I think would have lost either way. So if you took for a sell, it would have lost. If you took for a buy, still would have lost. Yeah, it didn't matter for 702. This trade here would have lost either way. See what else I got here. And that's about it. I think that those are the only two entries that would have met the criteria, 732 and 702. But that would still give me a 1R for the day because I would have won the 732, would have lost the 702. So yeah, no, I agree with what your well, if your analysis is kind of lining up with what I just mentioned, PC, I do kind of agree with that. That kind of keeps things a little more I guess simpler in a sense, right? Keeps it a little more simpler. But the problem with that is that now it's going to be more it's simpler, but it's also more subjective. Because at least with the momentum, we're kind of following the direction of momentum. But the yeah, I don't know. I'll have to I'll have to I'll have to kind of like see. I'll talk to Masij about that actually, because he's the one that's been doing the coding to kind of identify stuff like that. But the problem with that is that then it just kind of makes things a little more subjective because he's trying to keep things keep things more objective and not subjective. So I'm kind of curious to see like for example here. So the 702, I kind of measure it from this point. It's a 50-point push to the downside. I think like what I might have if I'm to use something like that, it would have to be at least like a 100-point push, or there'd have to be some sort of threshold. So for example, from this low here to 632, it's like a 100-point threshold right there. 641. So I'm just looking for an edge here to identify. So this here's going sideways. Uh 50, 641. I guess 641 could be for a possible buy there. Yeah, no, I'll have to kind of play around with it because I'm looking at it here. I'm trying to figure out like what could be the catalyst. If we're not using momentum as a catalyst, then what could we use? The thing is, the momentum for the most part has to be the catalyst here because that's what the strategy is based on. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to kind of just kind of play around with it. Maybe there's a different catalyst that we can use to identify entry or momentum. But for the most part, I think the main thing is really just these choppy markets, right? The choppy markets are just you just got to avoid them because right here at seven or 641. Like all these trades here basically would have lost for the most part. Like these trades here would have lost either way. And it's based off the choppiness, right? Because whether you take a buy or a sell here, like at 641, it wouldn't really matter. Um, it still would have lost. So yeah, we'll keep improving. I mean, right now what we have is working perfectly fine. So I'm not really going to make any changes at all. But yeah, in the future, maybe in the future, that's something that we can maybe look at. Um, but the whole strategy is based off the momentum. So I don't think we can necessarily change any of that stuff up. Yeah, PC said I tested it this way because your entries sometimes line up exactly with mine. I'm a time first, price second trader. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's why we would line up very similarly because that's exactly how I'm trading too, right? Like you said, time first, price later. For me, it's like time first, structure later, basically like price. And if I see markets choppy, then I just kind of sit out of it. But all right, guys, I think that's it for the day. It is 8:07 right now. These are the entries for the day that came up. If you decided to take every single entry here, it'd be a total of a 1R. So how many wins? One, two, so three wins, five losses. Um, wait, does that make sense? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Five losses plus 1R. So if you took every single entry that I listed on here, it'd still be profitable. I didn't take anything today, so I don't have anything to show. But yeah, basically this over here, if you wanted to take every single entry that I listed, it would add up to basically 1R. But all right, guys, I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up for the day. There's no breaking news so far. I think the big thing to look out for is if the government shutdown ends tonight. If the government shutdown ends tonight, expect a lot of news to happen tomorrow. We have CPI, jobs data, etc. All this stuff is going to be dependent on the government shutdown. If the government shutdown doesn't end tonight, then all of these news events are going to be canceled because we haven't had any jobs data for the past month, and then CPI as well. So we might not have anything tomorrow if there's no government shutdown that's been agreed upon. So, all right, guys, if you guys have any questions, hit me up on Discord. Otherwise, no trades for me today. But there was a positive outcome to all the trades if they were all taken. So, all right, guys, I'll see you guys here tomorrow. I'll be in the Discord if you guys want to keep talking. Otherwise, we'll be back here.